Hi, it's Miranda and I am Mother Elephant. Today, let's learn slip stitches. To learn slip stitches, the first thing we should do is learn when to use them. I will be using US terms, so I will be calling this a slip stitch. The UK term looks like it's going to be a slip. I'm not sure if anybody watching will need UK terms, but when I say slip stitch, I mean a slip, and this is the chart symbol. If you're reading a chart, when you see this dot, that's when you'll know you need to slip stitch. If you're reading a pattern and you need to slip stitch, you will see either SL or ST. Now you know when to slip stitch when you're either reading a pattern or looking at a chart. In this chart, you will see that we are going to foundation chain. I'm only going to chain 10, then we will chain up 1, and we will start our slip stitches. This is what the fabric is going to look like. And you can see that slip stitches in crochet looks a little bit like knitting. I think that's so interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what our fabric comes out looking like. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain, 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 10, chain up 1, and then slip stitch. Follow along so you can see what that looks like. To crochet the chart we just saw, we're going to start with a slip knot and then do our foundation chain. So we're going to loop over our finger, pull forward to make an X, and drop this part off our finger. There is your slip knot. Tighten down. Now, it's pretty important for slip stitches to loosen up your tension, especially when making your foundation. So I'm going to kind of just keep it nice and loose. Yarn over, pull up a nice loose loop, and chain 2, chain 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, nice and loose, 9, and 10. The loop on your hook never counts, but let's count up our stitches. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So, for our stitches, we're going to see that it's like a little V or a little loop. Here's the front loop of your chain, this is the back loop of your chain, and this is the underside loop of your chain. I like to crochet into this back ridge of my stitches just because it makes the piece always look real clean, and it's just the way I like to do it. So what we'll do in our 10 chain foundation is we're going to chain up 1. It does not count as a stitch, so 2 chains from our hook. We're going to push into this back part of our chain, yarn over. Remember to crochet pretty loosely, lots and lots of, relaxed tension, and then pull that loop that we just pulled up all the way through. Let me do it again. so we can see. Push your hook into that chain, yarn over real loose, pull up a loop, and pull that loop all the way through. We are slip stitching. Let's see it again. Loose tension. There you go. We will slip stitch all the way down our chain. Keep our tension nice and loose so that we can make these stitches very easily as we continue to make rows. Yarn over, pull up a loop, nice and loose, pull that loop all the way through. This is a very common stitch to use one or two or just a few at a time. I have not found any garments or fabrics where I have needed to make all slip stitches. However, I am interested to see if it comes out looking like knitting. So pull that last loop through, nice and loose. I'm not sure that it looks like knitting, like it did in the picture, but maybe we'll practice it and get better at it. Let's, especially as a beginner, count our stitches. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have all our stitches there correctly, so let's turn our work. Chain 1. This stitch does not count as a stitch, so we are going to go into that first stitch, pull up a loop, nice and loose tension, don't tighten down, and pull that loop all the way through. Next stitch, pull up a loose loop and pull it all the way through. Slip stitches. Let's see as we finish all the way down this row, nice and loose tension. If it maybe starts to look a little bit more, like knitting. Maybe. Nice and loose, pull all the way through. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, nice and loose, and pull that loop all the way through. What I use slip stitches for is tying off at the end of my work or finishing up a round. We slip stitched in our granny square tutorial, crochet along. Here is the last slip stitch of our row, nice and loose. Now let's count our stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Excellent. Let's turn our work. I don't know, does it look like knitting to you? I can't really see it as knitting. Let's chain up 1 and do at least one more row. Nice and loose, pull up a loop and pull that loop all the way through. Pull up a loop, nice and loose, all the way through. Let's continue to slip stitch all the way down in all 10 stitches and see if our fabric looks like the picture. Maybe we can compare. Your hook and yarn might not be the same gauge and weight. The reason that I'm using this specific yarn is because the stitches show up easier on camera. And for beginners, it's better for you to see what I'm doing than for me to match your yarn weight and hook gauge. Last one for this row. Oh, I think I let my tension get a little bit tight. Let's see if I can't get into that stitch. There we go. Yarn over, pull up a loop, make it nice and loose so we don't get too tight. And let's continue to count our stitches. It is important as a beginner to make sure we don't drop any stitches. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What do you think? Do you think it looks a little bit like knitting? I am going to make a few more rows and see if we can't see similar fabric to what's in that picture. So I'm going to turn, I'm going to chain up, and then I'm going to slip stitch and just continue that process, turning, chaining, and slip stitching until I have more rows. Here is the final result after I did several rows of slip stitches. And I guess if you kind of pull it apart, maybe you can kind of see. It looks a little bit like knitting. Ooh, sorry about that. I hit the camera stand. I'm not sure that it looks like the picture. But this is what our slip stitches wound up looking like. It's very dense. I think I might keep this swatch and compare it to the others we end up making from our stitch guide. So you can see that we chained, turned our work, chained up one, and then started slip stitching. Turn your work, chain up one, continue slip stitching. Turn your work, chain up one, continue slip stitching. This is about 14 rows. And this is what your result looks like. Now you know how to slip stitch and when to slip stitch if you see the dots in a chart or the SL or ST, SLST in a pattern. Congratulations, well done. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next stitch video.